I'm Laura Kaler, Director of the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative. The concept for this webinar came from our South Dakota Grasslands Initiative outreach work group, where we talk about how do we help share about the grasslands with the general public and a broader audience. And a lot of the conversation that we've had has come back to how social media is used by the different partners within the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative. So Whitney Pollock with the Prairie Pothole Joint Venture took the lead on organizing this, pulling in the brains of Buzz and Barrett, who come on our calls, and if you ever visit with them, have a lot of information to share. And so we're happy to be able to share that out with you all today. With that, I'll turn it over for introductions. Just to note that this is a recorded webinar, and so it'll be available on the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative YouTube page starting probably tomorrow. Whitney, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Laura. I'm Whitney Polich with the Prairie Pothole Joint Venture, and happy to be here. Excited to learn some more tips and tricks for optimizing social media. And just like a quick kind of synopsis of joint ventures. Joint ventures are all across the country, and they're each a little bit different in terms of their focus. The Prairie Pothole Joint Venture focuses on the Prairie Pothole region, which stretches from northeast Montana, over into North and South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. And we really work to support partners and working lands in wetland and grassland habitat that benefits wildlife and specifically birds. We are a bird-focused, migratory bird-focused joint venture. And that benefits wildlife, people, communities. Yeah, that's kind of us in the synopsis. Partnership is what we're all about. So with that, I'll pass it off to Barrett.
What's up, guys? Thanks everybody for being here. I am Barrett Self. I work with Buzz Kloot on the Growing Resilience Project. Mostly involved with social media marketing on a day-to-day, some videography work, but also just digital marketing as a whole. And we've learned a lot. So I think Buzz and I have learned a lot over the last 8 years working together about how to promote some things, and we're excited to bring some of that information to you today. I'll pass it to Buzz.
Right. So do we carry on from here, or
Yes.
are other people going to be?
Growing resilience,
okay, for sure.
Get rolling.
All right. Yeah. So Barrett's already talked a little bit about growing resilience. Barrett and I've been working since, I think, on and off since 2016, and then permanently for the last 8 years. We started with something called Merit or Myth, trying to quote unquote myth bust some things in row crop lands. And towards the beginning of 2021, we decided to start including perennial systems as well as row crop lands. And that's where we got involved with ranchers as well, which was great for us. And so we have been working with South Dakota NRCS since then, and have slowly but surely built up a portfolio of people in a multimedia kind of space. Initially, basically what we did was videos and then posted it on Facebook. And I think it was 2019 when Jeff Simprich, the previous NRCS state conservationist, said, you know, we really need to move the needle on soil health. So what often happened was we'd post something on Facebook, and, you know, we'd get 3 likes, and, you know, one was from me, one was from Barrett, and one was from Barrett's mother or aunt or something like that, you know. So it's like, how do we get this going? And so we slowly but surely kind of started moving towards trying to do a little bit more, and what you'll see is how we got there. But we got a guy called Michael Sausen who joined us and talked about search engine optimization. So he's not with us right now. Hopefully we can get him back, and that's another story. And then every now and again we pick up gems like Rosie. So Rosie's right here, and she graduated last year, and she was working for us part-time, and she had 6 months between her graduation and the time she starts her new job. So we've been able to use Rosie to produce a lot of video reels and shorts, which has been useful. So our thing is soil health and really being able to highlight farmers and ranchers and honestly partners as well. We think anytime we do something that highlights or raises the profile of a partner in South Dakota or in the Great Plains, it's not only good for the partner, it's good for us. And so that's kind of the attitude we've been able to go through. So from here on out, I'm going to ask Barrett to take over. But really what we want to talk about is, you'd think I don't know if we stumbled on this, but we slowly moved towards there in terms of creating a website that consistently showed decent information and then kind of fine-tuning and honing things. And I think Barrett really got on this video shorts thing. And so we've found the secret sauce for now. But what we've also realized is the secret sauce for today may not be the secret sauce in 6 months' time. So we're always having to monitor what's going on. And I'll talk about measurement and management of our time. How do we deploy our assets? So Barrett's going to talk about our funnel and social media and our efforts to bring people to the website. And then I'll talk a little bit about the website. Maybe just one last thing. A lot of this is based on content that we've gotten over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So it's been really important for us to have guys like Joe Dickey working with us. And we've got a lot of content through podcast interviews and more recently just interviews with people talking about current affairs that we take a transcription and we run that through AI and we come up with some material that's useful. So I'm going to let Barrett lead from here on and just talk about our funnel. And hopefully we can take questions and respect your time as well.
Thank you, Buzz. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so I'm going to walk us through basically our social media strategy that's working for us right now. But first, I want to look at kind of a 10,000-foot level, why we use the strategy that we do, and overall what our strategy is at Growing Resilience. And that starts with social media. We have several social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're also on YouTube. We use the South Dakota YouTube channel. But really, social media is the front, most public-facing part of our brand. It's like if somebody's walking down the street and you've got a shop, we've got a billboard or a sign out front that lets people know that we exist. So social media is basically just filled with more kind of teaser information to try to pique interest and to get them, once they see our sign, to come back into our store, which would be our website. The second step of our funnel, leading from the first step, social media, to the website. Buzz will walk us through this. We've got a lot of resources on here, blogs, podcasts, free resources, all kinds of things. But really, once they're in the store and once they're looking at our content, we want to create a one-on-one relationship with them. So we want to convert them from someone that's on social media to someone that looks at our website to now someone that is subscribed to our mailing list. Mostly because of exactly what Buzz said at the beginning. We've had success on social media over the last year or so, but social media is an ever-changing, evolving landscape. And what works today is not guaranteed to work tomorrow. And literally, we've seen strategies that work for months have a sharp drop off on the next day, and we're not sure what's happening. So we want to move our audience from something we can't control, like social media. Again, using our analogy, I can't control if somebody's walking down the street and is going to see our sign, but I can control if we've got a one-on-one relationship with them. So we want to invite them to join our mailing list. Again, moving from something that we can't control to something that we can reliably control, so that now every time we release new content, it's going directly to our audience. Whether they get on Facebook, whether they get on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, they don't necessarily have to be on those platforms or looking at our page to know that we're releasing content, because they're getting a direct email from us. So that's kind of a 10,000 view of our funnel. And how can we create the best signs or the best social media posts to reliably get people through this funnel into forming a one-on-one relationship with us? And the main way that we do that is through tracking metrics. All of the different platforms that exist right now, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, have insights pages or analytics pages that will basically give you information about how your posts are performing and why they're performing the way that they are. So if I look at Facebook, which is our biggest driver of website traffic and email subscribers, we can see on the insights page, this is over the last year. This is basically engagement and views over the last year of our brand, Growing Resilience. And you can see wild spikes here, and you can see dips. And all of this is normal and natural. But what we want to do is figure out why these spikes happen. What are the things that are happening on those posts on the platform that lead to those spikes, so that we can reliably keep churning those out and keep getting traffic to our website. And just looking at this page right now, we can see one of the best things that we can do is posting reels. Views by content type right here. Reels are short form content under 75 seconds. We can see that reels are getting about 90% of the traffic that people come to our website from, or come to our social media pages from, whereas photos is only 11%. That's a massive difference. If we didn't know that and we were only posting photos, we're missing out on a massive opportunity to really create an audience here. So again, we're trying to identify what are the best practices that are performing well for our audience, and then we'll lean into those. So I've got kind of 6 top practices that we've found are performing the best for us, and I'll kind of just walk us through that. If anybody has questions about these, please throw them in the chat and we'll answer at the end. Also, if anybody needs these in actual text form, I'm pretty sure we'll transcribe this, but we're also happy to share at the end. So the number one thing that's working for us, obviously, we saw directly from this page, and that's short form video content. Short form video content is video content that's under 75 seconds. If a video is under 75 seconds, it will literally be categorized by most of these platforms in a different way than if it were over 75 seconds. And people are looking at short form content. They're not really digesting long form content as much anymore. What we found even more than under 75 seconds, if we went and looked at these spikes in views, is that most of these are actually happening from sub 30-second content. Really short content that is driving most of our views and traffic. So if you look at most of our reels now, this is our kind of short form reels page. Most of them will be under 30 seconds. This one right here with Chris Nissen is around 29 seconds. And again, we'll get comments from time to time from people that say, oh, this doesn't tell the whole story. Oh, this isn't helpful. Oh, there's so much more to this topic. And yeah, that's true. But when you've got a sign out front of your business, you can't tell the whole story on that sign. So really, this is teaser content, like we said, to try to direct them back to our website and then direct them back to our again, to our email list. So the number one thing that's working for us is short form content. The number two thing that we're tracking is what are the topics here that are leading to these spikes? Why does particular content perform better than others, and what are those contents? And then we want to lean into featuring that more in our posts. So content that we've seen or topics that we've seen that perform really well are tillage. You can see tillage called out immediately in this post. For us, economics, financials, you can also see that called out very early in this post in the headline. And then we find out, honestly, things that we wouldn't have anticipated. We would anticipate that a buzzword like tillage or economics are going to perform well. People care about these. These are really big topics in the space. But we found from monitoring, again, these metrics that some topics that we wouldn't have anticipated to perform well do. Topics like grazing perform very well for us. An even more niche topic, goldenrod. We've made about 4 or 5 posts on the topic of goldenrod. And for some reason, it's one of the best performing topics that we have, outperforming even tillage and economics. I would have never guessed that. We would never know that if we weren't tracking our metrics. But again, that's data, and that shows us, okay, well, we should lean into that topic and explore it more if the audience is hungry for that content. So leveraging key topics, number 2. Number 3, creating some form of curiosity or what I call productive tension in the first 3 seconds when the piece of content shows up on someone's screen. We found that we can do this really well just by throwing text on the screen right off the bat that tells the reader or tells the viewer what this is and creates some form of curiosity that they're going to want to resolve so they keep watching. The most important seconds of a short form video are the first 3 seconds. So we really need to capture attention in those 3 seconds, or we're going to see a sharp decline and drop off in the performance of a video, and it's not going to get much reach. So creating some sort of curiosity or attention right off the bat. Now, we don't necessarily have to use text like this. We could have a unique image. We could have a very strong quote from the speaker right off the bat. But we found that using these headlines on screen is a very simple, easy way for us to create that tension and curiosity. Next up, using ag keywords. So I see a lot of posts in the agricultural space that are very short, maybe only 2 or 3 lines. The shorter the information is in the description, the less the platform is going to know who the post is for. The description helps tell the algorithm what this post is, and therefore, once they know what post it is, they know who it's for. So we want to fill it with agricultural keywords. I'm not going to go through the entirety of this post, but you can see right off the bat, we got farmer, South Dakota, tillage, field cultivator, so on and so forth. Tillage again, all of these words let the algorithm know who this post is for so that then it's easy for them to get it in front of that audience. Very helpful. Another one, when we track these metrics, another commonality from these big spikes that we found is the next practice here, and that's encouraging comments. A lot of our top performing posts have a lot of comments. You can see on this one with Chris Nissen again, if we scroll down, this one had close to 300 comments. That's great. We really started a discussion here. The more comments a post gets, the longer the lifespan of that post. Because it starts to get comments not just within the first 30 minutes or hour of it posting, but when you're generating, obviously with this post, 300 comments, but even less, sometimes it can just be 10 comments. Those comments are happening throughout days, weeks, potentially months. And as long as there's more comments and more dialogue, that post is still alive. It's still a sign that's active, that that's getting foot traffic, that people are walking by. So we really want to encourage comments. And sometimes we'll even comment ourselves. You know, this post got a lot of traction, so we threw a comment on there acknowledging that. And even just us acknowledging here, we got 41 likes just on that one comment. Very helpful to drive engagement. And last but not least is we always want to close with a call to action. Again, what are we doing? This is just our sign that's inviting them into the store. So we want to close with a call to action that drives traffic in all of our posts. Close with a call to action that's either driving traffic back to our website or that is directly helping the post increase its lifespan or viewership, which would be a call to action to comment. We've played around recently with having 2 calls to action. So we offer an opportunity for them to come back into our store, into our website, but we also tell them the other action we'd like them to take. We'd love to start a discussion. Please comment below. And you can see that strategy playing out very well with this post right here. So just to quickly recap, we track all of our metrics, and that tells us the type of posts that we want to lean into and what type of information we want to keep in that post. So we've got short form video. That's by far our top performer. We leverage key topics, the topics that are being viewed the most. We want to create tension or curiosity in the first 3 seconds. Many ways to do that. We use these headlines for that. We want to help the algorithm by using keywords in the posts. We do that throughout all of our descriptions. Encourage comments and discussion, and close with a call to action, basically telling them the action we'd like for them to take. And that'll lead them out of the first step of our funnel, the sign or social media, into our website. And from here, I will let Buzz take over and dive into what's going on the Growing Resilience website.
Yeah, Barrett, before I do that, I was wondering if you could comment on you try and devote 1 day a week to posting something that's different. So there's always an experimental. I mean, I think one of the things was that cartoon picture, that the caption of I increased my organic matter by 1%. Can you just talk about that a little bit? And again, I think this is just in the interests of realizing that we may have the secret sauce today, but honestly, we don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months.
Totally, yeah. Thank you, Buzz. So Buzz mentioned one post, kind of a funny, cheesy post right here, but I'll use it to illustrate a point. Tell me something romantic. I increased organic matter by 1%. This is just a test post. This is normally a post that I would share to our story on Instagram or Facebook. Stories have a 24-hour lifespan. And it's mostly content like this or just content that drives traffic to our website. But we try to devote 1 post a week, usually on Wednesday, to just test a different type of content. Again, like Buzz said, these practices that I just laid out are the practices we're finding are working right now, but things change very quickly. So we want to always be positioning ourselves to take advantage of what's the next thing that's going to work. There's going to come a day where this content that you see loaded through our feed, short form content with a header that creates tension off the bat, where that's not performing as well. So we're trying to be ahead of the curve so that we don't find just an absolute drop off and then we don't have a plan B or a plan C. So Buzz mentioned this post, so we'll bring that up to illustrate the point. But we're always testing new content. So we like to test new content once a week and see what works, see what doesn't work. A lot of our posts on Wednesday do not perform great. I haven't tracked this metric specifically, but Wednesday might be our worst performing day for content. But really, we don't care about that. What we care about is finding data and patterns that are working. So if a couple Wednesdays are a flop to find that information, then it's worthwhile for us.
Yeah, thanks. So I think, yeah, part of that, I mean, it's part of the whole, certainly regenerative farming and ranching idea is that we have to find ways to fail and to fail early and quickly so we can recover and carry on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me see if I can do that. Zoom. Where am I? This is all. What do you say?
Maybe the expand.
Expand.
And then more.
Do you see why I need young people to help me here? Thank you, Rosie. And of course you. All right, I think that's it over there. And share. So, okay. And let's expand this again. So can you see my, you can see my screen there, okay? I wanted to perhaps add one last part of the funnel that we have is that we have a MailChimp account that Michael set up for us a while back, and I've had to take over. And we started off with a list of people that were related to the conservation districts. And what we did do is we try and create a letter, a short letter each week. And I write it myself, so I write it in the first person, that we then try and send out on a weekly basis. And then we can also track the number of opens and the percentage of opens that we get. This last week, you can see our percentage of opens dropped, but the number of opens actually increased. And what happened was we sent it by mistake to an additional, 4,000 or 5,000 recipients, which I didn't intend. But each newsletter has something that we try. Again, I make copious use of artificial intelligence to say, what is the best title for this? So that when someone clicks on it, let me go here. What's this? Oh, no, I don't want to pause. When somebody clicks on this, it's going to be, or when somebody sees it, it's going to be something that they want to read. I don't want to pause this right now. Actually, let me just do that. I can start it back up again. But this basically is something that we put together over here, what the content is. And if you have a preview, this is just a letter that I sent. We visited with Fred Provenza. He's an animal nutritionist. He famously flunked retirement 17 years ago, and he's still talking to professionals all over the world. And we met with him in Colorado. And, I just wrote a quick note, and then I have a little call to action over here that sends folks to the website if they want to. What we've done is we've tried not to have this as a bait and switch, but something that gives people a little bit of pleasure, and doesn't force them to go somewhere else. It's just, if you'd like to go here. In terms of, Barrett talked about content or sending us to the website. And over time, what we've done is we've created, our bread and butter has always been videos, or was always videos. And so we've got a page where we have a boatload of videos, anywhere between 3 and 20 minutes. And what we discovered, Barrett, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years ago, was that our 3-year videos just started tanking. We just didn't get anything. And then we noticed every time we post that same video on social media, it would go up. And then later on, we honed down to these shorts. So we keep this as a base over here. And what we've realized with so many of these videos, you take 3, 4, 5 hours of video, and you're lucky if 20 minutes makes sees the light of day. So being able to now isolate little sayings in the transcriptions. Now transcriptions 5 years ago were very expensive. People would have to either do them themselves or get it done at $1 or $3 an hour. It's all done automatically now through through whatever video the video app we use, a video editing app. So that's been good. We also have something called ranching topics, where we might take a number of items in terms of videos, podcasts, and then also blogs that we then just put in one item. So it's kind of like a multimedia app. And then I think Rosie's put some shorts down here as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for farmers and ranchers if they want to know about a particular topic. So we've got salinity, year-round grazing, drought management, etc., etc., etc. So that's been useful. And so when Barrett makes a short, we try and make sure that he's got some sort of content. We've, of course, got our podcasts. I think the other thing that Barrett found out for us was that when we have a long podcast, we have a limited amount of downloads. And then was it this one over here, Barrett, when we had Natalie Sturm and we shortened it down to about 10 or 15 minutes, the number of downloads we had was much higher?
Yeah, it was that Natalie Sturm short form episode. I think it's a little under 20 minutes, as
Yeah.
opposed to a lot of our other content is around 60. And I think it 5x'd the listens in the first week compared to our normal numbers. And
Yeah.
this is a trend we're seeing across all kinds of content. People want shorter form content. They want to know what they want in a very short little wave, and we're trying to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So content, videos, shorts, podcasts, and then the one thing that's happened that's revolutionized the way we blog and then also write is that we have hundreds, I would say hundreds of interviews where I have had personal experience with people, but it's only been now in the last year or so that, not year, in the last two or 3 years that the software that we use Adobe Premiere Pro, but it automatically creates transcriptions for us. And then if you take that transcription and throw it into AI, and then you throw your own voice into, you've already got your own voice, but you say, I'd like to create a 3-minute read on this. You can then create blogs that are conversational and that raise curiosity. And instead of something taking maybe 3 or 4 days where I'm going through the transcription and outlining, and by the time I get to the end, I forgot what I started, AI helps us to create this content which, looks and sounds pretty natural. And because, instead of churning it out in 5 minutes, I interact with the AI to create what I think is a fairly good product. It's still in my own voice or our own voice, and what this does is that every time we get a new person in the reels and a new subject that we think is important to explore, Barrett might say to me, "Hey, can you do another blog about Fred Provenza?" We did something, with the drought. I don't know are you guys still having a lot of drought in the southeast? Yeah. So we were able to get online, not online, on a Zoom call with some folks. I got the transcription, and we created a short blog with some of the folks, you know, Tance Herman, Marsha Denneker, and Emily Rohrer, just talking about something that is current and is of importance. So we've been able to leverage AI and then also the ability of voice recognition to create content that, again, we have to be careful how we do this, and we watch the stuff that we do. So that gives you an idea of the content that we've created in Growing Resilience. Barrett's already talked about measuring stuff on Facebook. What we here, this is our Wix page. We know, for instance, we've got one live visitor. I think that one live visitor today is me, or right now is me. And it says, okay, I've visited the home page. So this is definitely me over here. But there's 2 live visitors now. Okay. So we can track what people are listening to or watching. We know how many site sessions we have in a month, and it tells us how many we've had today, how many we had yesterday, how many new email subscribers and unique visitors we have. So this is a nice dashboard. I'll show you. The other thing is it also shows us how our blog posts are performing. I posted this one yesterday, so we haven't had a call to action. Oh, we did have a call to action to this one. So it's produced 14 reads so far, not so much, but you see, as posts age, we do seem to draw a little bit more readership. But you'll see that some posts, I'm now looking at the blog posts in general. Some posts, you know, produce more reads than others. And again, I think a lot of the time it's about the title. I'll go, you know, this is the cameras. This was a sort of a personal story, 228 reads. When this was about Alejandro Carrillo in the Chihuahua Desert, when cattle bring the desert back. I'm just trying to go the range according to Bart. And we've got a few, for instance, cows and cover crops and tillage versus no tillage, where we've had a lot of people. And I think that this particular one blog goes back to what Barrett was talking about. And that was Chris Nissen's post, where we've got almost 1 million views and, you know, 300 comments. So we've got a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go back to home here. In terms of the analytics, we'll just go to the highlight analytics. That's somewhat the same, but this also tells us where our traffic comes from. So Facebook direct, Google, you can see the traffic has all increased. We like to see those green arrows. During the government shutdown, where we couldn't post, we saw a lot of red arrows. All right. And then over here, which pages have been visited most? So we can look at a whole report. And Rosie, where did we where do you get the searches or something?
You go to home.
Go to home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be right here. The Google queries.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think
this one. Click here.
I believe if you click full report.
Click full report.
I
Over
could be
here we
wrong.
can. It's been in front of me for a year, and Rosie found it for us.
That's the way.
Okay, so these are some of the search criteria that we've got. Now, 14 isn't exactly a lot, but see, goldenrod, array archuleta, Fred Provenza. So these are things that we try and look at over time. Look at that goldenrod search criterion. That's crazy. So that has helped us. This dashboard here is something that we check on a daily basis, and we just like looking at it. But just one longer term thing, talking about workflow, is we want to make sure that what we're doing is useful. So what I do is take from this dashboard here, going back here, I just, we have a Google page, and we can track our progress. We had a lot of views, and then we kind of had a little bit of a dip, and we've come back. We had a lot of email subscribers in the week, and that's dipped, and it still hasn't come back fully, and that's probably because of our not being able to employ Michael Sazin. We know how long each person stays in a session with us and the average page views per session. And then we're also looking at which traffic sources we're getting. So that I like to track that on a weekly basis to see, what are our trends. In terms of Facebook, we see very similar trends. And, when our trends go down here, we're often seeing the same trends there. And I guess there's a way that you could just about convert how much Facebook traffic converts into website traffic. You can see the 1 minute views. I don't know what happened here. I think that's bad data. So we've got about 16,000 one minute views, but you can see a lot more 3-second views. So a lot of times people start viewing for the first 3 or 4 seconds, and often when they click, it counts as 3 seconds. So you can see the difference, how much follow through you have. And Barrett can also gauge from his Facebook, what percentage of people are retained through that thing. The other thing in Facebook is we are approaching 30,000 followers now. And where we found the secret sauce last year in May, so about a year, we've grown close to about 8 or 9 times in terms of the followers. The net followers, 500 a week, that's pretty good. Reactions would include comments, shares, and then likes. So those are some of the things that we do, and that allows us, from a management point of view, this allows me to kind of track where we are. And of course, for the sponsors, we're sponsored by the USDA. We like kind of telling them, look at how many views we've had. And it's very good for relationships between sponsors and the people doing the work. So Barrett, I don't know if you've got anything else there, but that's more or less what I wanted to say. If you don't have anything to add, maybe we can field questions. That's not too bad. We did 44 minutes. That's not too bad.
Yeah, Buzz, I think that's pretty good on the website and email list. We did have on our format just to kind of briefly discuss tools that help make this possible.
Okay.
We just walked through what takes a lot of time and energy and daily management. And I know Buzz mentioned AI, but using AI where appropriate for us processing transcripts, accelerating content creation, even sometimes helping us with in the comments is a great help. It's like having an assistant. It's like having 3 assistants that are highly specialized. Highly specialized at each individual task that we give them. We use ChatGPT. There are several out there, but AI is an incredible tool. Now, it needs human oversight, and I wouldn't just dump everything on it and expect it to come out with diamonds every single time. It does take iterations if you want it to create copy, and it does take human oversight, and we certainly need to read and monitor everything that comes out that we put into ChatGPT or an AI model, but it's a super helpful tool that helps keep our costs low. We don't have to hire a second, a third, a fourth team member, and we can get a lot of output that makes a lot of these things possible. So leveraging AI has been super helpful for us. And the only other thing I'll say, Buzz kind of showed you our Google sheet where we track a lot of the metrics.
You want me to
A
put that
lot of
back
us are
up again?
located in different locations, so it's very helpful for us to have a home base where all the data that I'm looking at on a daily basis for social media, not all of it, but a good amount of it is tracked. We track content that we've got that's ready to be published, content that's already been published. We track some of our views in the Google Sheet, and that's also very helpful to keep us organized and to help us with communication between our team. So leveraging AI and having kind of a home base for tracking data and our library of content helps make it a lot more manageable and a little less hair pulling.
Thanks, Barrett. Thanks for sharing those tools. Yeah. Hey, Lynn, I didn't realize you were on as well. So yeah, any questions from you guys?
I'm on mute, Buzz, but this is very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I neglected to mention that Lynn's been on the team and he's kind of been our elder statesman for 5 or 6 years and has pushed us. Perhaps one of the things I could say is that one of our first successes was when we started a campaign, I think it was 2022, Lynn, where we started we got this list of email addresses from Soil and Water Conservation District. We had to wrestle them to the ground to get it. But we sent it out, and we sent it out with a quiz and a $20 gift certificate. And this took a lot of work by Michael to put it together, but people would then answer it was a soil health quiz, quiz about soil structure or something like that. And we created these quizzes, and that was the first time we saw a huge influx of traffic to our website. And over about a year, what we found was that we had diminishing returns. But that was Lynn's brainchild, and that was the first time we ever saw that the universe, the blogosphere, the webosphere, or whatever, was responding to things that we did. And that's that started inspiring us to monitor our traffic much better, much more intensely, what works and what doesn't work. Other questions?
I had a question, Buzz and Barrett. Is AI used a lot for boiling it down to what you might print on the screen for that? I think they're really nice looking challenges, or they're very interesting ways to approach the topic each time, looks to me like. So I
Yeah.
just wonder how much you get it from AI for that.
Lynn, yeah, when you got a 20 or 30-minute interview, I find that if I can immediately process it through AI from a few, from an hour ago or during that day, rather than, oh, I don't have time, I'll do this next week. I can say, what were the main points over here? And then often AI will skip over a particular point, and I say, well, you forgot this particular thing, or you forgot that particular thing. And in that way, AI can summarize something, and then I can say, and I often use my voice prompt, and I'll say, well, okay, take this transcription, and this is an interview I did with so and so and so and so. They're my good friends, and the last time so add a little bit of personal information, and I do that on the voice prompt, and I say, let's have a 5-minute, a 3-minute read on this particular blog, and it'll go, and then I'll proof that, and I'll read through it, and sometimes that didn't come out quite right. And then go through those iterations. And that's what might take a morning or 2 or 3 hours to do. But Lynn, to your question, when you've got a long transcription, AI is very, very good at summarizing, especially if you're able to supervise it closely. So the excuse that I used to have, well, I'll do this next week, means that by the time I started approaching a blog or a writing piece, I'd forgotten about the content and I'd have to read through it again. Whereas now I don't have the excuse. I can toss it straight into AI and it refreshes my memory and I'm able to produce something really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks to me like you're getting viewers with the challenges that you pose and the questions you pose right away. That looks great to me.
Yeah, we got spoilt a little bit, Lynn. When we didn't get 5,000 views by, Barrett posted at 2:30, and we didn't have 5,000 views by 6 o'clock in the evening. I'd say, oh no, this post was a bust, and Barrett say, no, you go back and have a look at something from 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's already got 20,000 views, and we'll take that. So we have been spoilt, but yeah, it's a great evolving process. And again, I'll say, what works today may be completely, redundant in a month's time, in a year's time. But thanks for those comments, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, I think you have a comment or question.
Yeah, hi, thanks for that information. It was super helpful. I'm wondering about the time investment because you got Buzz, you working on the website, and Barrett and marketing and Facebook, and Rosie, and I think you mentioned one other person. So, it takes a team to kind of put this together and test it. And I'm just wondering how much time you are investing in not only developing these posts, but then also tracking how they do and then using that information to inform how you do social media and website design in the future.
That's a good question, Lisa. Are you on your own doing everything?
Yes.
Same with me. So
Yeah, you too. So Whitney, you're in the same situation.
yeah, and I had the same question Lisa had too.
Yeah. I think one of the things is like me, there's always a lot of inertia. So like setting up something where we're tracking every time, right? Where we're tracking something, it's basically setting up a system and then updating the system once a week. Like this map that we've got, where we track our web stats. So that's easy, or not easy, but it becomes fairly simple to do. But it's getting over that hump. But do both of you have websites at the moment?
Yes, we both do.
So possibly starting to look at the website and having a look at, where are people visiting. The next thing I would say is being able to look at producing content. I know that Whitney, you guys have been working with Joe Dickey, haven't you?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So getting his video or getting, I think he's producing video for you, but asking him for transcriptions, right? And saying, hey, Joe, can you send us the transcription of those videos and maybe some good images that we can use? And then producing something that may have personal content for you and put it on your blog space. So the blog space, we use Wix. And if you know me, I'm kind of a Luddite. So the blog space is fairly easy for me to post and update. Fortunately, I have a grad student that helps me along with that. But I think basically it's like cutting up an elephant. Start off, one thing at a time. Get a system in place to, you're not going to be able to do this completely from the get-go, or, do all of these things. But I would be more than happy if you do have content, or if you do have an interview or something like that. I'd be more than happy, and I'm sure Barrett would be more than happy to sit with you. Barrett, if we had something that we could help you create a short or something, we'd do that. And I'd be more than happy to help you create a blog or something. But I think part of the search engine optimization is if you have a website that gets updated once a year, traffic is not going to come to it. So you've got to be thinking about, what is my next content creation going on there? Post the content. And it seems to me like, because we've been fortunate in that we've been measured by how much content we're creating, that seems to have worked really well for us. And so creating a website that people might go to for information, and may be a little bit provocative of, what's a prairie pothole? Do prairie potholes do any good to anybody? Or, why would we care about the northern Great Plains? Shouldn't we be caring about the Amazon desert, the Amazon jungle? What's the biodiversity? Oh, it turns out northern Great Plains has more biodiversity per square meter than the Amazon jungle. So, we've tried some of that, but you guys might be a lot more passionate about that. But I would say you've got to take it in chunks, and both Barrett and I would be more than happy to work with you on, maybe where do you want to make inroads? How can we help you to get that going? If you've got Wix, I can help you with that. We're going to retain Rosie as well, so she might be able to help you as well.
I'll piggyback a little bit on that question, Lisa. The reality is, what we just walked through takes a lot of time. I mean, it does. And you're a one-person team, and I don't think it's feasible for you to crank out the amount of content or track the amount of metrics and do all the things that we're doing. But my perspective would be, every week, if I'm posting, how can I take, or I'm sharing online, doing something, how can I take one step this week that sets me up for success or makes me better next week? So let's say you post 3 posts a week or whatever. I'm just making that up. 1 performs okay, and 2 perform terrible. Let's just lower the bar here. Well, why did the 1 perform okay? And let's just find out what's the difference for the 1 that was okay versus the 2 that didn't perform. And then next week, maybe we lean into a hypothesis on why. And then next week, we've got a little bit more data. And then I just am constantly tweaking, so that every week I'm just taking 1 step so that I don't get burnt out, but that we're getting better every single week.
That's super helpful. Thank you both. I have to pop off, but this has been wonderful, so I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
One more
Thanks, Lisa.
question, if you guys don't mind, maybe
Not
just
at all.
a little bit later. So, part of our goal as a joint venture is to amplify our partners' voices. So one thing I try to do is share a lot of partner content. But what I've found that is tough about like Facebook like that, I can't schedule any posts. So I just have to kind of always be on there looking for stuff and sharing it right away. Any thoughts on that to make that easier, or to be able to kind of schedule it ahead of time?
Yeah, so you can't schedule posts directly on the normal Facebook platform, but they do have something called Facebook. They've changed the name so many times. It's like Facebook Manager Meta Business Suite. I can email you the actual link. But inside of that, you can create posts and schedule them out. That's what I do every day or every week. All the posts that you see us, very rarely am I posting it at the computer right then when I post it. So there is kind of in the deeper Facebook, Instagram space, a way that you can schedule out your posts. And you can do it on that same Facebook suite. You can schedule a post from the same platform to Facebook and Instagram in the same place. So I can share that link. And definitely a major help. I mean, needing to be on the platform 24/7 and scanning for things to share and needing to share them instantly is definitely not sustainable.
Yeah. Whitney, just one thing. I don't know if you maintain a Facebook, you do maintain a Facebook page. One of the things that I have done in the past is I go ahead and I essentially copy all of our posts, put them in a Word document, and throw them into AI. And we did a little bit of troubleshooting like this a couple of months back, and says, you know, and ask AI what's working and what's not working. And it gave us some pretty good advice on that. So that may be another querying AI, because AI is probably going to be able to see, what the trends are in terms of what some algorithms are doing. So,
And
yeah.
then like hashtags, do you guys use hashtags? Do you find any use in those?
We use hashtags for YouTube. We do not use hashtags on any other platform. Basically, what was hashtags is now just post description.
Okay.
So, with what we said, one of the things we found work was filling our description with agricultural keywords. So, basically, the description is telling the platform what it is, so it doesn't need a hashtag anymore.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, well,
And I threw in the chat the link to the how to schedule a post on Facebook.
well, thank you, Buzz and Barrett. This was very informative. And I hope you don't mind if I follow up with you on a few things kind of more related to my personal goals and PPJV goals. Yeah, any other thoughts from anyone else before we close up here? Right.
If
Well,
not, we'll have the recording available on May 6th on the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative website or YouTube channel, and you can view it there. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.